coming to you live. I'm coming to you live from Menara Ken, the offices. The recently set up offices here at Menara Ken. And we're very fortunate to have with us today Matthew Basing, who I always say is one of the leading voices in business development and expanding what we're going to define as the post-COVID economy. So Matthew, we're really excited to have you here today.
Wow, Nordin, that is an amazing introduction. You're too kind. I think I've met many friends in Malaysia over the last 21 years, and it's very exciting to see what's going to be happening over the next 24 months, leading through the recovery period from COVID, and we can already see it already. So I'm very excited to join you for lunch, Nordin. I actually went out and bought a sandwich so I can actually join you for lunch. Happy to be part of this. Thanks.
Brilliant, Matthew. And of course, you're one of the leading. And I always get this wrong, but I'm not going to get it wrong today. You're the vice chairman of the Malaysia Australia Business Council, I think we're very excited to see what is possible now that I think we're looking at the tail end of COVID-19 as an economic pandemic. In terms of people, I think have got to the point where look, we need to get back to work. Enough is enough. What are you seeing as the kind of broad stroke trends that are coming out of what happened last year and what's going to happen this year?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question, Nordin. And what we've seen is over it's coming up to 2 years that since we first started locking down. It was in March 2020, so it's nearly 2 years. And what we've seen is there was at the beginning of COVID, there was a lot of unrest and a lot of scurrying around trying to work out how to have a continuity plan for companies, because companies had never been in a situation where they were forced to have employees working remotely and working from home. So there was a lot of noise in the market about technology and platforms, and then came the real big issue, which was staff which traditionally have been coming into the office. Now we're working autonomously, from home, and how will companies project managing or managing their employees was a real challenge. And what we've seen is over the last 2 years, even the staff which have been working from home for the last couple of years during COVID, the ones who have been productive have been able to keep their jobs. Recently, a public listed company in the US laid off 9,000 employees, and the justification for that was over the last 18 months, that company has been monitoring performance, and the people who had not been performing, working autonomously from home, unfortunately let go of that company. So that was a huge signal to the labour market that things are going to change. So one thing that we're seeing now is a lot of companies in Malaysia are now asking their staff to come back to the office. But I think as a trend, working from home I think now it's not going away. And I think a lot of the companies, what we're seeing now, the trend in the market is companies are now having a hybrid. So where people will be coming to the office, but also have the flexibility to work remotely as well. So even in EPS, which I'm very fortunate to have joined EPS Malaysia this week, on Monday this week, and even in our office in KL, we're finding that we have a split shift. So which means half of the team will come in 1 week and half the team will work from home alternate weeks. So I mean, we've really got to be adjusting all the time to this new environment. And I guess, it's very exciting to see people coming back into the office. And I think this has been a big thing, because even though we've enjoyed working remotely for the last couple of years, and we've become used to that, without human interaction, I think there's certain challenges. So there's my overview.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that we are seeing a lot of change, and we've been fortunate to have Michael Warren join us, and I noticed he's noticed your new glasses.
Yes, these are the Kingsman glasses.
So you've gone from stock to Kingston. Okay, we know you're a trendsetter as well as a fitness enthusiast as well. But to pull it off, I guess you gotta stay relevant. Now, Matthew, I wanted to ask you more about this idea of hybrid working and productivity. Now, when we talk about businesses, yes, we've kind of suffered through the last 2 years. Okay, work from home. Now, what can businesses start to do to drive productivity? And is it about working from home, or is it about getting the right people? Or what are your thoughts here?
Again, Nordin, it's a really timely and relevant question, because companies a lot of companies have been struggling with this for quite some time. It is how to effectively manage productivity levels when staff are working from home, and you can't blame the staff. I mean, they're working from a home environment, and then they have disruptions. They have family and things like that. And I think there's been a lot of very, very interesting YouTube videos of even one of the reporters on CNN had his child running in behind him in the home office when he was doing a live interview. So, that is it's good to see that, because these are the real world problems that are being faced with working remotely or working from home. But the exciting trend now is, like I said, is having inviting your staff to come back to the office. I don't think it should be mandatory that they're in the office. Obviously, there's some staff which are more effective when they're in the office, and there's some staff which would work, have a very successful career or job when they're working remotely. I think, Nordin, to answer your question, it's more on how you're managing the employees' productivity is one, but also it's managing relationships as well. And I think this is really important. And companies now, they have to put a plan in place how to bring people back to the office. Number one is productivity levels, monitoring productivity levels. But number two is managing people, personalities, and also how the people feel about the fact that they've had that level of freedom over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed now is, I was having a discussion with someone this morning even, it's a company's requirement to ensure that there's a safe working environment. Yeah. Now, what happens if you enforce that you guys that the working environment is the house? Yeah. How does the company ensure that house that they're asked to work in is a safe working environment? Has that even become a discussion at the moment? Because you've got elements of all kinds of things going on in people's houses, but in terms of mental health, do people actually do better in the office with friends around them, or do they somehow want to be at home. What are your thoughts around mental health, being in an office, and being productive? I mean, I know I keep asking you difficult questions, but these are questions that business people need answers for.
I mean, all the questions are very relevant, Nordin. So with companies wanting people to come, wanting their staff members to come back to the office, I think having a plan in place is really important to have a plan that shows staff that they can feel safe when they come to the office, because even with this most recent variant, the Omicron variant of COVID-19, in Australia, for instance, this has gone. It's out of control. I mean, they're getting tens of thousands of cases every day, and staff, are very sensitive about the not only the environment of working, but the security and what steps the company is taking to ensure the safety of their team members. So I know that companies in Malaysia, they're instituting new SOPs or new policies on their staff coming to the office. So, for instance, in our company, EPS Malaysia, we all of the staff, like I said, they're on split shifts. So which means each will have a different team working from home one week and a different team coming to the office. All of the staff are to take a rapid antigen test every 2 weeks, even though we've all been vaccinated with the booster shot. To give a extra level of confidence, all of the staff have to take a COVID test every 2 weeks, and also there's other measures in place within the office to separate the teams, so they've got their own personal space. And things like that. But I'd love to hear. Obviously, I'd love to hear from from the audience as well. Is what levels of SOPs or security that the other companies have instituted, to enable a safe environment for the staff to come back into the office.
Mm-hmm. We've been getting a bunch of questions. I'm trying to put them all together. I'm going to start with Richard. Richard's question was really around the value of corporate commercial properties, people returning to work, and that kind of, we're not just talking about productivity, we're also talking about the property industry here, and property and the businesses that go in and around a building, in that sense, the restaurants and all that kind of support, the supporting acts of a building. What do you see in terms of the trends there? Will over the next 12 months more people push to have their staff back in the office? Will that then create the activity that we need at the local level?
I think this is there's actually things have changed over the last 2 years. So I mean, companies that had permanent offices and have had their staff working remotely. I know many companies are now looking at a shared office space rather than having a permanent office space, which brings a different sort of environment for the team members as well. But it also it reduces the overhead costs for companies by having that. By having a shared office space. So I know, Nordin, you're in the shared office space in Menara Ken at Taman Tun. And actually, I mean, it's something that I've been giving a lot of thought to, is, having a shared office space, it just makes sense for a lot of companies moving forward. Number one is, they're going to be having this hybrid working environment, and rather than I mean, some staff may not come to the office 1 week and then come to the office next week. Some may come in alternate days, and what it does is having a new environment, or having a more flexible office environment, I think allows companies to mitigate costs, risks, and also it steps up the environment as well for in a shared office environment, and it also gives an opportunity to mingle with other other companies that are doing similar sorts of business as well.
Nice. No, I kind of like this new idea that we're trying to put in place. Like, I only want to see you when I need to see you. And it's like really like, if that's an hour a week, and we sit down, get everything sorted out, and then we can be on the phone and Zoom throughout that. I think that kind of new hybrid kind of productivity model is starting to work for us. Of course, you as the boss need to be available to hundreds of people in your organization, but in the SME environment, sometimes you just need a few hours a week of actual contact. Now, Michael's had a very interesting question, and also Razana has also touched on this, and it keeps coming back to mental health, and I think mental health still remains an issue, whether or not you're back in the office this week or next month, or in the second half of the year. There are real people with real mental health issues, and it's almost it's kind of this hidden reality of there's it could be a CEO, it could be a manager, it could be anybody. How do companies deal with the mental health risk in terms of their staffing models? What does that mean for managing risk at the company level? And is there a model that you can use that says, like, let's shift the risk of employees to somewhere else? Is that a possibility?
Well, I mean it's a two-part answer, but I think what you're talking about is how do companies take responsibility for the well-being of their team members, and mental health has obviously become, and thank you, Michael, for asking this question, because I think this is something which it's always been something which has been it's not swept under the rug, but it's not been at the forefront of companies' HR policy is how to manage and how to help their team members or their staff with their mental health. And I think this is something which is really relevant now. Like Michael said, I mean this has been a major problem for a lot of people that have lost their jobs during COVID, and they've experienced a lot of emotional trauma over the last 24 months. And I think, Michael, your comment or your question was really talking about a particular case where a very senior leader had been laid off, and then from a mental health perspective had been gone through a divorce over the last 24 months. So I think this is something that companies need to really address, because this is a really relevant problem that your staff or your team members are going through right now. And I've looked into it a little bit. I mean, I'm not sure whether everyone knowing. I mean, of course, Azran, the former CEO of AirAsia X. So he's been, this is something which his company is really active in helping, mental health and providing support, and also providing guidance to companies, in how to support their team members.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent, Matthew. We've got another question from CW around this trend of decentralization of work. What does that mean for companies who handle recruitment, and what does that mean for companies who now need to plan the human capital requirements of the company to achieve the productivity. Is there a need for more people to get the same level of output, or are people, like what you mentioned earlier in that US question, like, okay, those who are not productive, we're just going to cut them off? There is that, brutal approach, but companies were always cutting off people who weren't productive anyway. I don't think COVID-19 is the reason, but are you seeing this decentralized trend?
I think this is, and I'll go back. So this is sort of an answer to the question you asked before, and sorry I hadn't answered that, and then also the question by CW. So what we're seeing in the marketplace is so of course there's the traditional recruitment or which companies are doing, and they either, companies will do that autonomously, which means they'll advertise for positions, and then they've got their HR firm internally, and then there's also external companies like EPS which provide recruitment services. And what we've seen is a trend recently, or over the last few months leading into this recovery period, where companies who have laid off a lot of staff over the last 24 months are starting to advertise and re-employ those team members. And then there's also a lot of emerging companies, technology companies and other companies which have emerged out of COVID that also have a quite aggressive recruitment plan. On the second part to that, which is addressing the question on the clinging on to old traditional models of centralized work in offices. So companies now are, I think, if they haven't already adapted to either remote working environments or a hybrid strategy, I think they're going to get left behind. Staff now who have been working remotely for the last couple of years, then there's not as much, I guess, they're not tied to the company as much as if they would have been if they were based in the office and they were having that real-time interaction with all their staff members and stuff like that. So now companies need to be really careful and really give a lot of deep thought into how to retain staff moving forward, and that is to give flexibility, where it can be. So with jobs that can be done remotely, is to give that level of flexibility to staff. And what we're seeing in EPS is a big trend now for companies to not only recruit for themselves or use external recruitment providers, but we're also seeing a massive trend into companies wanting to outsource jobs. So when I say outsource jobs, that's where they look for an external provider like EPS to provide staff on an outsourced model, which means EPS would take over the payroll, would take over all the benefits, and basically managing the HR side on behalf of the company. And what that does is that's twofold. So number one, it allows the companies to de-risk, and which means that instead of being a fixed cost, now it becomes a variable cost, which an invoice would be sent to the companies at the end of every month. But it also, I was speaking with, I can't say who it was, but I was speaking with a board member of one of the largest banks in Malaysia last week. So we caught up for coffee, and we spoke about these models of outsourcing recruitment and outsourcing payroll and staff. And his opinion was that this is something which really needs to be looked at by the banking sector. So in the positions which are not regulated by Bank Negara, of course, if they're regulated by Bank Negara, then obviously they can't outsource those positions. But like typical positions being like customer service, IT positions, non-critical IT positions, and so forth. He saw a real trend for in the banking and financial and insurance sector, for those jobs to be outsourced to a service provider, which provides HR and payroll services. So I think this is a trend which is starting to really take off, and even over the last few days, I've had a swathe of inquiry asking me to sort of reconnect and talk to them about what this services provide and what impact it will have to the companies.
Now, I want to shift gears a little bit, Matt, and shift to what the Malaysian government has been doing of late in terms of policy development, strategies, and ideas of getting the economy back on order, back to where we were pre-COVID. What have you seen as a positive development there?
So so Freddie, I've seen a lot of our friends are tuning in who know that I've been in Malaysia coming up 21 years, and I spent 5 years working for Index, so working for the Malaysian government, and so I've got a lot of very dear friends who are working with the Malaysian government through different ministries and government agencies. And what I've seen is really encouraging. So it's different government agencies are looking at different industries, like whether it be the gig economy or startups. There's a lot of focus on startups, on how to support startups to grow, because over the last 24 months, the companies that have suffered the most are the micro SMEs, who are selling sandwiches or nasi lemak and stuff like that. So they've really suffered over the last 24 months. So I believe that the government is really on track to support the resurgence of business, and they're coming up with a lot of economic stimulus to support training, to support loans for companies, to get back on track. I think the loan moratorium, which was reintroduced, is a really positive thing. And it's really understanding what are the current issues that companies are facing in Malaysia. And it's really, my opinion, and this is my own personal opinion, my opinion is it's not time to reduce the amount of government incentives and programs to support. It's really time to double down. And really, for the next 24 months, this will be a very trying time for a lot of companies that have downsized and really struggled during the pandemic. This will be the next 24 months is where the government and government agencies and incentives and programs will really come in to support these companies to get back. They've got 24 months. The next 24 months is where you would see a full recovery. So my opinion, again, is I believe that it's not time to wind back in these incentives. It's time to double down for the government.
Got it. Now, Rosanna's come up with another question for us. Back to remote setup. Should employees be compensated for utilities, internet, and stationery, etc.? Is that something that businesses are now thinking about, or what level are we at in terms of those? May seem like trivial small amounts for big businesses, but for an employee, this may turn into a cost of 50, 100 ringgit a month, which eats into their income. What are your thoughts there, and how do we manage this?
Well, if staff are working remotely and they're using internet and utilities and stuff and stationery, then absolutely the company should be looking at either subsidizing or covering the cost entirely. Because it's a cost of doing business. So it's not a trivial question at all, because like you said, Nordin, if you've got an entry level employee who's earning 2,500 to 3,000 ringgit a month, and then they're having to, it's their electricity bill maybe is increasing by 30%. Then they've also got the internet charges and their mobile phone charges. Then obviously this is something that I would assume that all companies have already instituted policies around this. But I'd love to hear from anyone listening if it's a problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Now, Matthew, we could talk for hours on this subject, and you are obviously I got to keep it under half an hour, although we've already gone over half an hour. But I want to ask you one last question in terms of your outlook for this year, and in terms of we got to, when Michael Warren asks question, you've got to like press the pause button, So, it's a government turned off 3G December 21. Okay, now where are we? And the floods replaced by 5G pilot in Klang Valley. Don't want to discuss the government okay, I've got to like read those before reading them out. My apologies, but I think data and that environment has become so much more important, especially in key economic areas like the Klang Valley. Richard Main has asked also one question. I think, in terms of kind of this the grab route of for professional employees, is there a grab model for the gig economy? Is there a gig economy model for professionals? What do you think, Matt?
Well, thanks, Richard, for asking that question. EPS in Malaysia. So we have two primary business lines. One is executive recruitment, and one is contract staff outsourcing. On our payroll now, we have as contract staff, we have over 500 people in Malaysia, and that is spread across all different industries and all different roles and roles in companies, from technical to IT to operational roles and so forth. Now, I think the question's really interesting. So, rather than paying salary, is to pay by the job or by the project. So actually, even EPS, we actually have quite a few contract staff, like in the hundreds, that will be engaged by companies in Malaysia to do contract work. So like a 1-year contract or an 18-month contract. And what that does for companies is it mitigates the risk again, because if they've only got a 1-year project and they have to employ those people on their own payroll, then it comes with a lot of complications when they want to let that person go. Normally they have to find another place to redeploy them. So I think what Richard asked is really relevant, and it's something that EPS does already. So I know this is not a sales pitch for EPS, but anyone that wants to know more, I'm the guy.
Go and see Matthew straight away. Yeah, and I think this is the thing that we're looking at. There are new models emerging. There are new ways of reducing risk. There are new ways of taking advantage of opportunities. Back to my original thing that I was going to say before we got distracted. As we close off this episode of A Working Lunch with Nordin, give us your crystal ball prediction for this coming year, Matthew. What is going to happen, and what are you looking at in terms of growth?
Okay, I think the first thing, Nordin, is I wake up every morning very excited. As everybody that knows me, I'm a runner, so I go out every morning, and that's how I clear my head, is going out for a 10K run around KLCC like I did this morning. And my crystal ball, if it's not too ambitious, is I see that things are going to recover really, really quickly. As long as the government steps in and really keep supporting the recovery process through programs, incentives, and government grants and things like that. I think that's going to be really positive. I see Malaysia is projected a GDP of over 6%, which is really encouraging, and over the next 12 months. But I see that we're on track. I mean, we've turned the corner, and even with these new variants of COVID, I think we've already adjusted to it. Malaysia is one of the best countries in the world to live in right now. I mean, where everybody takes COVID very seriously. We take a lot of precautions personally, with the companies taking precautions. So my crystal ball is that if we have a discussion in 12 months, we'll be saying, I can't remember what COVID was about. I think that I'm a glass half full guy, so I see that the next 12 months we're going to be leading into a real recovery and see a lot of exciting opportunities for everyone in Malaysia.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time, Matthew. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and always a pleasure to get you on a working lunch with Nordin. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank the officers here at Ken, Menara Ken, for hosting today's show. It's really been an insightful discussion with you, Matthew, and we'll see you again next time on a working lunch with Nordin.
Nordin, I really appreciate it. And look, I sent a link out to my closest friends, and I know I've seen a lot of them have been jumping on. So I really appreciate everyone chiming in for this as well. This has been really amazing, and I think it's been a really timely discussion, Nordin. So thank you very much. And if anyone didn't know, Nordin and I both sit on the executive committee for Malaysia Australia Business Council. So anyway, giving you a pitch, come and join our events. We're going to be starting to do some really great live events coming up very soon. So thank you, Nordin, so much, and thank you everyone for chiming in. It's been wonderful.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Matthew, and we'll see you again next week. And thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you again next week on a working lunch with Nordin.
Okay. Take care, guys.